25 years in the corporate world, Gib Bulloch works with organizations, individuals, and teams to develop a sense of responsibility at both a personal and collective level to create meaningful social impact. During his time at Accenture, and inspired by his experience doing Probono in Macedonia, he set up the award-winning Accenture Development Partnerships, a corporate social enterprise that provided development sector organizations access to Accenture's top people, knowledge, and assets on a not-for-profit basis, and which delivered $250 million worth of services across 70 countries in its first decade. Gib was named as the Sunday Times Sponsor Management Consultant of the Year in the Best Partner Director category in 2008. Gib has played a key role in promoting the emerging concept of social entrepreneurship as co-founder of the League of Entrepreneurs. Mina Lopez-Lugo from the Global Pro Bono Network had a conversation with him during Pro Bono Week 2021 about the big impact of pro bono work in his professional and personal life, his unique perspective on the relationship between business, society, and the self, his book The Entrepreneur, Confessions of a Corporate Insurgent, and the Craigberoch Business Decelerator. Don't miss this inspiring conversation.
So, Gib, thank you very much for being here with us. And I'm pretty sure that when you were younger and living in your country, you were not imagining that when we introduced you, it is going to be a lot about these kind of subjects and talking about you and business and social impact and all these kind of things. So I know that March of 1999 was a very interesting period of time for you. And we would like to know first, who was Gib Bulloch before that? You know, what we were doing, a little bit about your story. Thank you for being with us. And we would like to know a little bit more about who you are before all these amazing things.
I was just going to, thanks, Nina. I was just going to take the exception to the idea that I'm no longer young anymore when I was younger, but when I was a little boy, I suppose, or before that, March 1999 that you mentioned, I was very much almost sleepwalking along the path of you go to university, you get a degree, you try and get a good job, I went to the bright lights of London, and I think I always had I've been grown up in a small Scottish community on an island in Scotland. There was always a sense of social justice to a certain extent, but what I wanted was a fast car. I wanted jet set lifestyle. I wanted some money and the gold card on the luggage, and all these KPIs of success that people think is what's going to make them happy or successful. So that's who I was really at that time. I'd like to say something different, but that's probably who I was, quite shallow.
Uh-huh. And then you have like this epiphany in which I feel very much related to your story, because I was working in corporates. Actually, we met in 2015 in Mexico with the League of Entrepreneurs. And for me, let me tell you that it was amazing, because for the first time I was meeting people from the business that they have also this interest in social impact. And I thought I was just the only person that was crazy thinking that kind of things. But it took me a period of time to go to this place. At the beginning, I was not even seeing social in any way, because I was not related to any of that. So for me, this event in which we met, it was really something at the BMW Foundation that changed my life. But what I understand is that you have this kind of epiphany going to a place to do this pro bono work that I was not even thinking, never in my life, I was going to do something like that. Honestly, that was not in my plan, in my view. So how someone that is working in business, some said well, let's give me a break, and I'm going to go to do some pro bono work to a place that you don't know. What was happening in that moment? Why you wanted to do this kind of thing?
I think there's a sort of belief that people who are working either in governments or non-profits think that people in business have horns, and they are greedy and self-centered, and we think there's different stereotypes there. And actually, at the end of the day, many of us care about the same things: social justice, environment, whatever. we're just trying to do it in different ways. I, having described where I was at, I suppose things were starting to get, the pay rises were meaning a bit less. I was at an inflection point, a transitional point. I was looking for something more. Was this really what my career was all about? Was making big companies more successful, working in the kind of consulting. I was in a consulting company at the time, which is now called Accenture. And as you say, that epiphany was really just reading about an opportunity to go and volunteer, to be a volunteer, a business volunteer in the global south, and use my skills in a very different context for a different impact. And that was, for me, it was like the missing link. It was just something that had not occurred to me, and it grabbed me. And I can make a long story short, but I found myself literally within a year out in Macedonia as a volunteer. And, I was on a salary reduction of 90-something% from what I had been on in London, but more motivated than ever, and seeing the impact that business skills can have on something that I care about. So that was a big change for me, a big opening for me.
Mm-hmm. In Mexico, we have here in 2017 a big earthquake, and we have this Probono intervention with some executives from a pharma company, and they decided not to travel to Mexico. But the next year, they decided to go. And there was a guy, I don't know if it's something from the region, but he was from Scotland. He is from Scotland. And one
I like
time,
him already.
A director, yeah. And I asked him, how many people report you at your job? And he was telling me 9,000 people. Wow. So he was over his 50s, and we have an earthquake. They were so scared. Nothing happened, but we have the seismic alert, and everybody was like super scared in Mexico. Some of them, they were saying like, I probably should go back to my country. So I was having these conversations with them. How do you feel? You want to stay? You want to leave? And when I asked him, how do you feel? What do you think? You want to go back to your country? We will help you if that is the case. And his answer really shocked me. A guy with a lot of recognition in his work, the financial, the recognition, the team, his family, grown up kids. And he was saying me, I will not leave this place because I've never been as happy as I am right now. Because for the first time in my life, I wake up and I have a purpose. And it's my own purpose. It's not the purpose of the company. It's not the purpose of someone else. It is mine. So I am staying, of course. And it was really interesting for me and clarify a lot of things. Sometimes, of course, you are doing the things that you have to do. You are doing the things that you are, and doing them well, and with people that you care and that love you. But this personal purpose is something that sometimes is this kind of feeling. How do you feel when you were there? Was there something like that, finding purpose, or you already know that?
You're reminding me of I've been reading recently the Viktor Frankl famous book, Man's Search for Meaning. This guy who was in the dreadful conditions in a concentration camp, and it's all about not chasing happiness. It's an outcome of having meaning in your life, and definitely it relates. I can relate to that in terms of what I was doing in Macedonia, and I can also relate to the hardship of the earthquake. There wasn't an earthquake there, but there was civil war going on in the Balkans. It came to Macedonia while I was there. And yeah, and it was a case of, do you leave or do you stay? And I chose to stay because I was very, very committed to that. And so, yeah, I think it's an elusive thing, purpose. Everyone, it's almost, people feel this pressure these days that they have to go and find their purpose. In my experience, it's something that finds you. It's not something you can go and look for and do some training or whatever. It's something that comes to you, I suppose, when you step off the normal path, when you go somewhere, when you get still enough to connect to something deeper within you or to a cause that is bigger than you. And that's when it grabs you in some way, and it grabs you like a drug. I certainly got that drug. I had intended to go and do something good and pat myself in the back and have done a year of giving back, if you know. I hate that expression, giving back. It's like, well, what did you steal in the first place? But people use it a lot in business, giving back. So I was giving back for a year and then intended to go and, make more money and rise up the ladder. But the drug was in my system, the purpose drug, and I was an addict, and you can't shake it off. And that's why when I came back, I was, I'd been thinking in these long, cold winter evenings, how about going beyond one volunteer in one country, not having a massive impact? Could I industrialize this with a business model? Was there a business model around consulting in these countries? And that was a launch of what became Accenture Development Partnerships, I guess.
Can you explain us a little bit about that? How do you bring that idea and how it worked?
Well, the idea in itself was, I was thinking, how much more could I get done if I had a normal team of people around me? I was working alone, and I normally was used to having a team of people. Would other people want to come and do the same experience as me? I saw the crying need for business skills and technology and innovation in the non-profit sector in the global south, and a lack of access. So it was almost a case of, could we turn the business model on its head? Could we change the funding model? Consultancy is about paying smartish people a lot of money, adding a big profit on top, and charging clients a lot of money. That obviously isn't affordable. So can you flip that around and say, well, maybe people would be willing to work on less than their market worth? I said, maybe people would half their salaries. Everybody said, you're crazy. Everybody knows that people want the maximized salary, but I believe that people would work for a lower salary if they had some meaning in their work. Could we get Accenture to not take a profit on certain types of work? It makes its profit legitimately with corporate clients, but did it need to make a profit on this other work? Could it waive the profit margin and the overheads? And could we get the client, the beneficiaries, the non-profits, to pay something, 10 cents in the dollar, 20 cents in the dollar, just to cover some costs, rather than being purely pro bono? So low bono, I think, is the is the term, not from pro bono to low bono. And my idea was, I can try and make this break even. So I preferred to say, rather than not for profit group, I say a not for loss group. And again, people said you're crazy, but in the first 10 years or so, I took an idea to the leadership. It was a fake press article about how this would be great. They bought into the idea, and against the odds, it worked. People did queue up to come. There's over 50,000 people on the waiting list at Accenture now to do this kind of work. It's incredible, huge number, and that's not unique to Accenture. That's just when you find that lightning rod of purpose, of meaning, people are queuing up to do it, even on a lower salary. We worked with all the big NGOs in the world, and we worked, in about 80, 90 different countries around the world, $250 million worth of consulting in our first 10 years, and it's still going strong. It's I'm glad to say I'm no longer there, but it's a lovely legacy to see people growing this business without me being there, and for it to be its own self-sustaining unit, a social enterprise, full of entrepreneurs. And we talk about entrepreneurs a lot, obviously. So that's the story.
It's an amazing story, Gib, because you won the Accenture International Award, right, for corporate social responsibility. You personally were voted as UK's Management Consultant of the Year, that in 2008.
A long time ago.
That is great. I can assume that you were not imagining that something like that was going to happen, right? How does
if you're in this stuff for the awards, then you're doing it for the wrong reason. I mean, the awards and the PR and the nice things were a sideshow, were a nice outcome. I can assure you that these are nice things, but day in, day out, it wasn't all nice roses and easy going. It was, people think you've lost your mind because you're giving up a career. People think, you're trying to push up against the system and what the system's trying to do. And so it wasn't easy. Luckily, I had some good support from many of the top leaders, but also, there were people who were questioning, why would we do this? We're not a charity. Why would Accenture do this? Why should I give you good, high-performing people to go and work in Africa when I can use them to work for profit in London or New York or wherever they were working? So it wasn't. it was great. It was a great journey. It was a learning journey, but it's not the easiest thing in the world to fly in the face of what the system is trying to do. But my hypothesis was that rather than leave the company and try and do a startup on the outside, that if we can have people doing more of these kind of things inside pre-scaled business ecosystems, huge organizations, the entrepreneurs, if you will. I didn't know that title until many years after I'd started, but if we can get these people inside and start to move super tankers in slightly different ways, then that's where the impact comes down, rather than everyone jumping into their own little speedboat. It's nice and it's nimble in a speedboat, but it's not as powerful as shifting a super tanker just a little bit.
Yeah, you're right. What will be your key learnings from this? Because thinking now, I mean, it is something that I see more organizations and corporates participating in pro bono programs, but they are not made by design, this kind of participation, you know. I've only heard about an organization in the US, Matthew Manus, in which the design is 50% of the time that you work is going to be for the business, and 50% of the work is going to be pro bono for some kind of project that they have. But I mean, that is not normal. That is something that you normally don't see. And this happened some years ago, and it is not something that has been like a common thing, you know. It's not something that we can say that right now all the different or corporates or agencies are doing something like that. What would be your key learnings from that experience? What would you think that is happening, and if there's some light in which we can do something?
My hope is, or my belief is that for this really to take hold and to go to proper scale and impact, we need to get away from this these kind of divides between this binary thing between, you know, I'm doing my day job, my work in this company, and then I do my doing good, my philanthropic, my pro bono stuff. I mean, that's what it's been in the past, where it's divided in that way. But my sense is that there doesn't have to be a separation between doing business and having impact, doing good at the same time. We can find ways, new business models, new collaborations, new innovations, where there is a business value directly in the day job, and that we have more entrepreneurs finding new ways of, through commercially viable business models, of unlocking value for the business, but at the same time having a social impact in how we feed and nourish the next billion on the planet, provide water, sanitation, clean energy, education. These are the sustainable development goals, but they're also, I think, business opportunities in disguise, waiting for entrepreneurs to work individually and collectively. And then we won't have to have this, when I finish my day job, I can go and volunteer. I think these things have to converge more.
Yeah, absolutely. And for the ones that they don't know, what is an intrapreneur? Can you explain us? What is
an entrepreneur? Well, an entrepreneur, I mean, people know what entrepreneur is, and perhaps a social entrepreneur. So we've seen in the last 15, 20 years, social entrepreneurship has been the new way of rather than just having a charitable non-profit answer to things, we could have profitable businesses serving a social or environmental purpose. Their challenge traditionally, though, has been this one of scale. And that's where the concept of an entrepreneur, we have entrepreneurs, socially minded entrepreneurs inside these large organizations. And we know that businesses have scaled unbelievably over the last few years, not just in the tech sector, but everywhere. How do we unlock and awaken these social entrepreneurs, and rather than have them leave, keep them in there, driving change at this sort of bottom-up level, impact for the business, positive impact for society inside these pre-scaled ecosystems. So that's the notion of entrepreneurship, I think.
I know that you very much embrace the thinking out of the box, and something that I have seen that happens a lot is when corporates or companies, they decided to make their executives to participate in pro bono missions. You put them in a place in which they have to think out of the box. I mean, all their skills and all what they know, they have to put them in a place that is completely different, in an organization that is working with a very, very small amount of people, and that they are having different kind of needs. So it is completely different, and they have to think different. And something that I have experienced looking at is how some of them, they get very frustrated, like, it's not possible that I don't have these kind of things. But others, that they get like this big picture about the ecosystem and what is happening around, and how they are doing things that some people, they didn't even understand that there was a problem there, or they didn't know that there were others trying to fix these things, and that there are methodologies that they are amazing. And I have seen this like a place in which this entrepreneur that probably was doing their work and they're doing it well, but was not thinking in that moment out of the box, get the inspiration to say like, oh my God, with all the resources that I have inside my company, and these guys are doing this kind of thing. And then these chips start working, like the ideas and in which way I can participate and I can do these kind of things. So I think it is something that some corporates see it, and they even pay this kind of participation in pro bono programs as part of the way in which they give this kind of thinking, instead of giving you like a course that you're going to go to a university or to participate in something different. While participating in this kind of activities, it has been something interesting, but they are expensive. So they are just for a little bit of them, it's a group of them that they are the ones that they are selected and that they can participate in that kind of things. In your experience, know that and you're in contact with more entrepreneurs, what is what you feel or what you think that they are looking for? What is that kind of, is this purpose that we are mentioning? They want to change the world. They want to feel better about themselves. What is like this common thing that you see in the entrepreneurs?
You talk about thinking out of the box. I'm reminded of the quote about if you want people to think out of the box, they first have to live out of the box. And I think that is so true, that we are so in our little bubbles, especially in business, heads down in our particular division, in our particular company, in our particular industries, working away, and we don't get exposed to these challenges. The motivations that you ask, yes, sure, people want purpose, but it's back to this point. I think ultimately they're looking to solve problems and challenges. That's motivating. Whether that's how do I sell more, things for the company, or how do I improve the supply chain, or how do I solve a social problem? And my hope is that the next big wave of innovation is going to not be, we think innovation's all around another app or technology and all these fancy things. I think it's going to be around human ingenuity and tapping into human ingenuity applied to a social or environmental problem. And I would take the global pandemic, as an example that has been a catalyst for innovation. We've seen startups and entrepreneurs and even big companies, entrepreneurs, doing things that would have been previously seen as unimaginable. Companies doing things, perfume manufacturers making hand sanitizer, and car manufacturers trying to look at ventilators. And when you put that challenge to people, they're motivated to step up and see things in different ways, new ways of doing things, especially when they're empowered and when the need to make short-term profit maximization is taken away for a period of time. You saw amazing things happen. So my point is, how can we start to extrapolate that to the bigger stage and tap into that human ingenuity and people's desire to solve problems and have an impact? And that's when they will find the purpose, or that's when purpose will find them.
And that's an interesting question, how we can do that, and how we can like let and invite corporates and invite leaders like to start doing this kind of movement.
Because it's in their interest. I firmly believe that. It's not about trying to encourage them to take 1% of their profits and put it into doing good, or give their people a day off a year to volunteer. That's nice, but it's not going to change the world. It's when they are convinced that they can tap into new sources of business value in addressing these big challenges by working in different ways, by looking laterally rather than looking down their own, little industry value chain. by working in new forms of collaboration, not just with other businesses from other industries, but potentially with NGOs from other sectors or social entrepreneurs who might be in their extended value chain. So we need to take the blinkers off and somehow educate the leaders of these businesses that there are Elon Musks and Elon Muskesses, whatever a female Elon Musk is. There's plenty of male, female entrepreneurs in the value chains of these companies, probably, unfortunately, unmotivated and maybe they're leaving or they're burnt out because they're working too hard. How do you tap into that human ingenuity and turn it into business value and impact for the planet?
Yeah. I used to work for the government in Mexico, and I remember.
Congratulations.
It was 2 years, and that was enough. But I remember some organizations coming with really needs that they were really important, but the way they were putting out themselves was so complicated that it makes the communication really difficult. I could see like what you are. What you are looking for is really valuable, but the way you are putting it out, it is not the correct way in which you are going to achieve what you are looking for. And my question would be in this case, Gib, what are social actors? What are we not doing to have this put us in front of these corporates? So what is the thing that we are not showing, and what is the kind of a conversation that we are having that it is not probably putting us out there, like to match what business are doing?
I don't think there's an easy answer to that or one silver bullet. I still think there is this distrust that I alluded to earlier on. There is still, stereotypes of what business people want and are and how you speak to them, and the stereotypes of what people in the social sector are. And they're not as separate as I think they are, but it's an inhibitor. I think it's an inhibitor. We pigeonhole people. It's probably trying to find a common language of things, or how. I think there's also maybe it's an inferiority complex, a wrongly placed inferiority complex in some way. And by that I mean, these big successful corporates, and it's all about money and power, and these little social actors feel David and Goliath and that kind of thing. But what the Davids need to understand is that they have something very valuable to these corporates. It's not just, please give me some money to go and do my nice thing. It's, we know about these issues on the ground that might be your next marketplaces. We know and have the expertise, whether it's in gender or environment or sustainability or indigenous communities or all of these things that the corporates might not have in their corridors of power. So it's about how do you find the language to communicate that value, that expertise that you have that could be monetized in some way. So I think it's about having a conversation of equals rather than this imbalanced thing, and being confident that the social sector has things that are of value to the business sector, and they need you as much as you need them.
Yeah, and I have seen members from the Global Probono Network that they are focused now also in asking, what is the goal, the corporate, what is as a corporate the goal you have right now? And it could be something focused on service, it could be something focused on image, it could be, so you can build and you can design programs that they are more oriented to that. And actually there's a survey from Pixera Global, that is an organization that is doing pro bono missions all around the world, in which they have been measuring the impact in the business. When you have a pro bono mission, and then people come back with different ideas and trying to change things, what happened with that? Is that having an impact in the business? And of course, it is very complicated to measure that. It takes a long time, but the data is there. It is probably, I don't know how long it's going to be sustainable to do this kind of a survey, but what is important is that the data is there, and the way in which we have to put them outside, as arguments for businesses. I think that is something that will be very, very, very much useful. And well, because I know that you have been doing a lot after that intervention, Give business purpose, and then because you started doing something different. Now you are a social entrepreneur, and actually you write
social entrepreneur.
Social entrepreneur. I will explain that. What are you doing?
I'm an entrepreneur. I don't know. What are we doing now? Well, Well, when I left Accenture, I ended up finding that I had a burnout in Accenture, and that was the catalyst for me leaving. So I got very interested in the whole area of mental health and resilience in business. And it's my belief that we have this kind of crazy system at the moment with people overworking, working too hard, longer and longer hours, being paid more and more money, and yet they're more and more unhappy. And I felt that I needed to write this book, partly about, it's a story really about the challenges of being an entrepreneur in a company, but also holding a mirror up to the craziness of the system, that, and really asserting that this level of burnout and disengagement in companies is a perfectly natural human response to a broken system. So I'm really holding the mirror up to the system that we have. And I'm also of the belief that if we want this concept of entrepreneurship and these entrepreneurs to emerge and grow and thrive, we need to create the right conditions, the right soil for them to flourish. And we're not going to do it in 70, 80-hour working weeks, heads down at the desk. And so a big area of my focus now is on trying to create what I'm calling a business decelerator. Everybody's used to business accelerators and growth and faster and bigger. I'm thinking that actually the change might start, and the fastest way to drive change in business might start by slowing down, by stepping off the hamster wheel, by focusing and connecting with ourselves and giving people the space to be innovative. And so, yeah, it's about bringing art and music and nature together with business and create these kind of conditions that entrepreneurs will start to bubble up. So that's my passion at the moment.
And I know how valuable it is because I had the fortune to participate last year, that you made it in a very difficult year because it was like the pandemic happening. So we were at home. It has to be something online. And it was amazing. So now it was amazing. And what is happening now? Now we are not like in such a strong lockdown. It is possible to have some meetings. What are the plans now?
Well, next week I will be going back to Scotland. So there's a physical aspect of what we were doing. Originally, I thought it was purely going to be physical. So I obviously had to go online during the pandemic. And now we're also coming back physically together on this island in Scotland. But what the pandemic has also shown is that people can work from anywhere in some places. And so beyond the intensive courses that I'm doing, we have virtual courses, yes, virtual programs in-house with companies, but also taking the kind of co-working model out of city centres and into nice environments in nature and taking people where they can be on their best day every day. And so I'm starting to look at this co-working, co-living, I call it co-being model, where we can be working in a rural setting in nature and then have an a la carte self-directed program of art and handcraft and yoga and meditation, and really try and forge a link between well-being and creativity, innovation, inspiration. I don't think you can have one or the other. I think just focusing in business on improved mental health, carrying on doing some mindless stuff doesn't work. And just focusing on entrepreneurship and hoping these people are going to come forward without creating the right enabling environment isn't going to work either. So I'm trying to bring these things together. Yeah. And that's the Craigberoch Business Decelerator.
No, and that is so important because I know that, our partners, of course, they are from businesses, and we're going to share this video with them. And there are moments in life in which we really, really need that. I remember, I know some of the entrepreneurs because of the League of Entrepreneurs, and it is common sometimes in the conversation, introducing yourself, to mention how many times you have a breakdown, It is like in my professional life, I have experienced 2 breakdowns, 3 breakdowns, 4. But you see the people join to work like every time. But the cost is the cost that you are paying on your health, and that you are paying, of course, the people that they are close to you in your family. And it's not something that, because I have heard now more people get open about these mental health issues. And I think it is really important. yeah, we have to be. We have to be very open because at the beginning we're not mentioning that. I experienced myself this kind of situation, and normally you don't want like to feel or to feel that people are looking at you as someone that is weak, and it is all the opposite. I think in the moment that you need something, you need to have the strength to say, now I need to search for something different. And I didn't have the personal decelerator when I have this breakdown, but I can imagine that it's not necessary to have it, like to be and to participate, but it's something that is going to help you to see like other perspectives. And I think something that I found there is also to meet other people, that it is like making a community, because sometimes we feel that we are just like the one that is the boss, or because you are doing something and nobody else knows what you are experiencing. And then you find out that there's other people, and then you start building communities. And I think there's a very big value of what you are doing, Gib, as a decelerator, because it's not just participating online, like put the video on or go here and it's going to be for no, it's going to be with people, and you make it a way in which we find each other, and I think that is very valuable.
Fingers crossed. I think so. We have to learn from, if we have a breakdown or a burnout, if you have 3 or 4, you have to wonder what you're learning from the first ones. We have to change.
I want to send you the
one was enough. One was enough for me to change. It doesn't mean to say that every day I get it right. I'm constantly having to correct myself, but I am trying to very much embody this stuff. And this notion, to your point, of vulnerability and talking about these things and being vulnerable and saying, hands up, this happened to me, it's not a sign of weakness. Vulnerability, I think, is a sign of strength. And I certainly feel stronger now talking about these things to strangers in videos like this than I did when I was in business thinking I was bulletproof. That is, it's very different.
It's amazing to have this conversation with you. Actually, we are so happy of having you, because you are, of course, a champion with these pro bono missions. We talk and we want to point and we want to put the spotlight in people that they have been experiencing this kind of activities, because sometimes we are fortunate and corporates, the place in which you are working, is doing a program like that and you can participate. But some other times it is like in your case that you by yourself, you try to find out like something that you can do different. And that is so valuable. And these stories, it doesn't mean that someone has to, I'm going to do this and I'm going to quit my job. No. But what we know is that they all have these aha moments, because I have seen that. And there's like these aha moments in which you say, like, my goodness, I was so focused in what I was doing, my work, and these other things are happening. And now I would like to finish like asking you this question: how is your life now? I mean, it is always, we have all these kind of situations and challenges, but how is your life now that you can see like this story, how it started?
Very different. It's very different. As you say, people are so focused on what they're doing that they've forgotten to think about where they're going. And I suppose now I've tried to build into my life the space. You talk about the space between the notes. If you lived your life like a piece of music, if music had no space between the notes, then it would sound crazy. It would just sound like a noise. And I think I'm trying to build the space between the notes in my life. I'm trying to embody this notion of deceleration. Again, I don't get it always right, but I am trying to walk the talk as much as possible, and probably feeling happier and healthier, and still inspired to try and provide support that the entrepreneurship network needs, I believe, for more entrepreneurs to emerge and to learn from some of the mistakes that I had made, perhaps. So it's a good stage in my life. I'm very inspired to do this, and it's been a real pleasure speaking to you.
No, it's amazing, Gib. And where can we find you? Where can we find more information about the personal decelerator?
Well, you might need to have this spelt in the notes afterwards. But my own website is www.gibbulloch.com, and the Decelerator is www.Craigberoch, which is the Scottish language for jagged rock, CraigBeroch.org. Craigberoch, jagged rock, and that refers to the standing stone, 4,000-year-old standing stone on the land in Scotland where these things take place. So please come and join us.
Yeah, if you are needing something like that, please, we're going to put all the information so you can check it. And honestly, something that is really, really valuable, and I recommend it so much. Thank you, Gib, for being with us today, and see you soon.
A pleasure. Thanks, Mina.